Hey, what's up guys, I'm Praetorian and welcome back to Hearts of Iron 4 as we're going to be starting a new series today using the Kaiserreich mod. So I have not played this mod in quite some time. We did a French series back sometime in 2018, so it's been about 2 years because that was the last time I played the mod. We did another series prior to that, maybe 6-8 months prior to that, as Austria. And in total, I've done 3 campaigns with the mod. So I'm not very experienced with Kaiserreich, but I did enjoy the mod those couple times we played it. So I've been wanting to do another one for some time, and it felt like this was the best time to do it, since we're going to be doing a little bit shorter series than we typically do with this series, because really we're just trying to find something to play while we wait for Crusader Kings 3 to release, for the embargo to lift off of CK3 here in a couple weeks. So let's go ahead and get started in the series. So we're going to be playing as Russia, the Russian Republic. I did have a patron poll on which country we should play as, and the choices were Russian Republic, the German Empire, Persia was one of them, and the last one was the Australasian Confederation. So the Russian Republic got the majority of the vote. I think it was like 53% of the poll of the patrons went for Russia, so they are who we're going to be playing for the series. So let's go ahead and do some custom game rules. We're going to go ahead and tick everybody up by 1, with the exception of ourselves, of course. That's us right there. And I'm not going to do 2, as I've been doing, simply because this is a mod, and typically the AI performs better in mods. Again, it depends on the mod, but usually they'll improve the AI in several ways. So we'll just do 1, plus it's been a long time since I played this mod, so that's how we'll add a little bit of extra difficulty for this. I believe that this game rule setting, division limits, I believe this is new to the mod. And it essentially it sets limits to how many divisions you can have. And I'm not entirely sure what that's based off of. It says like it's the economy, so maybe civilian factories or something like that. But you can turn it off. It does seem the main reason why they applied this is to reduce the late game lag that happens from, how many divisions the AI typically builds. So technically we probably wouldn't have to have this on. We could turn it off because, we don't usually have too many problems with the late game lag, because my PC is fairly decent. So I could turn it off, but I figured that the mod is likely to be kind of balanced around the division limits, with the assumption that you have it turned on. So we will leave it on, and I'm interested to see how it works. However, we're going to turn off the peacetime demobilization. It seems like that is also kind of tied to trying to help out with the late game lag, because it kind of makes it so you can't have as many divisions overall. The reason why I want to turn it off is because in Kaiserreich, political power is typically severely short. I often find myself needing political power for like the entire campaign. It's very, very short because you use it for just about everything. So I don't want to have to, every time we have like a short period of peace, let's say 5-6 months while we're getting ready for the next conflict, I don't want to have to change all of my, I think it's the economic laws, and the conscription laws. I don't want to spend the political power just to tick those back up to wartime levels, just because we went to peace for a little while. I think it's like 4 months is the longest you could be at peace before it demobilizes, which isn't really that long. So I think that this is the reason why we should have this off, is mainly just political power concerns. And again, it does seem it's mainly based off of how it impacts the game, so I think it'll be fine. I think we'll be okay with that. Again, how it impacts the performance is what I mean. So for everything else, we're going to leave this on the default settings. I love that they have country pass for all of the different countries in the game. There's so many, because I think every country in the game has a unique focus tree, or just about every country. They have so many that they had to split it up by continent. So I love that. That's interesting. And that'll kind of allow you to pick, which route you want the AI to go, but we're going to leave everything on default. I just want to show that they did have that, because that's pretty cool, because a lot of mods don't do this. So I like that they did it for this one. So yeah, this is good to go. Let's go ahead and start the game. We are going to play on the regular difficulty. I find when you want to add, a challenge to the game, is better to just give the AI bonuses rather than to use those difficulty modifiers, which really all they do, in my opinion, is make everything take a lot longer. We are going to go ahead and get all these guys placed into an army and get them put on the front. I don't typically do that in vanilla, but being that this is a mod, you can find yourself at war, you know, when you don't expect it. You know, in vanilla, you know that you're probably not going to see wars Russia until 1939 at the very least, or at the very earliest. But in the mod, you never do know. So we're going to put them all into one army and just kind of give them some fronts here. Just kind of give them a couple different fronts. I think we have to actually put one for each individual country here. But yeah, we'll get them all going over to the front line, and let me do it this way here. Get all these guys assigned. This doesn't have to be perfect. We'll probably have to rebalance it, and but again, this is really just to have the units on a front. That's the only reason why we're really doing it here. We'll put all the guys that are up here on the front of Finland, and then probably split these two, this army here into. There we go. Again, doesn't have to be perfect. We'll have to fix it, I'm sure. So then we want to take all the remaining units and get them placed into a second army, a kind of Asian army here. All right, excellent. And then have to give them two separate fronts as well. You notice the borders are very much different here in Kaiserreich than they are in vanilla. Where did we start with this here? Okay, it looks like we started here. All right, so these guys, we should also give them a front here. And hopefully that'll be good. I guess we'll see. We'll take these guys, you know, they can go here. I'm kind of, again, trying to spread them out a little bit. Doesn't need to be perfect, though. All right, so that's good to go for right now. Let them all move, and we wanted to keep them only to 2 armies. The reason why I created, you know, so many fronts, and obviously we have way more divisions than we should have in that army. Again, we'll reorganize this all once we go to war, get closer to war. I just wanted it in 2 armies rather than a bunch of different armies so that we could easily set them to train here, shift click them to train, so they're only going to train if they need the experience. Let's go and get the research slots selected, because we could end up finding ourselves in an early war, like a maybe a civil war perhaps, or just kind of dealing with a rebellion. We'll go ahead and get these passive bonuses. Those would help us in such a situation. But then with our other 3, we'll get the standard stuff you'd usually get. You'll get the engineering and the industrial techs here. All right, excellent. So knock that out. Let's go and take a look at our factory situation. We are not going to build any of these really old equipment. We'll just kind of focus on making sure that we get a stockpile of all this kind of stuff here that we'll likely need. Is that good? You know, we'll go like this. Put one more into the support equipment. Get a nice little, you know what, actually, one more into the infantry equipment. Get a nice little stockpile of that. We also have dockyards, which we'll just place into convoys, though we could look to see if we have any more modernized ships, any 1936 models. It doesn't look like we do. We have submarines. So we could put one dockyard into submarines, I suppose. You know, we'll just do 2 into convoys until we get a little stockpile of convoys, and then we'll build submarines. You may have noticed here that the naval tech tree is different in the mod. This is the only tech tree that I've noticed in Kaiserreich that is significantly different than vanilla's tech trees. Now most of this is just kind of reorganization as far as like the way it looks, and it's not actually changed that much. However, there are some significant changes. The most notable one here is with the gunnery, the basic naval gunnery. So with this line of techs, you get the secondary batteries and the light guns, while in the light medium guns, I guess. And in this one, you get the heavy battery and medium battery. So essentially, they have combined 2 techs into each one of these lines. So 2 tech lines into each one. So drastically reducing the number of naval techs you have to get, which I think is very helpful considering the fact that vanilla kind of feels like it has too many naval techs sometimes. You know, to properly be able to get through them all. So that's the main change that I saw. But there's also another notable change here, and that is aerial mine lane and aerial mine sweeping. So essentially you can use your planes to lay mines or to sweep them. That's really cool. I like that. So that should be fun to kind of play around with later maybe, once we start messing around with the naval game. But yeah, I wanted to show that kind of early here, because that's the only tech tree that I've noticed that is quite a bit different. All right, so everything's assigned here. I want to say we're good to go. We can't pick a national focus yet. They are kind of limited. We need to wait until certain events fire before we're going to be able to get anything. But yeah, there are no national focus choices just yet. We'll have to wait until those initial events fire, which should be fairly early We'll actually go into speed 5 here, though I doubt we'll be on speed 5 very long before the first event fires. A Troubled History. Now, those of you guys who've played Kaiserreich before will know that this is a mod that has a lot of really excellent lore, a lot of story to it, and it plays a big part of a campaign. So, as such, we will be reading many of the events, but not all. The reason why I'm not going to read them all is because there are a lot of them. There are an absolute ton of events, and many of them are very long like this, and we could spend this entire first episode reading events. Even if by reading just half of these, we're going to spend most of this first episode reading through the events. So I'm going to not read all of them, but some of them, like this one here, which I think is important for the setup of our current situation, kind of explain where Russia is right now, and it explains how things are different in our Russia here in Kaiserreich, the Russian Republic, compared to the historical Soviet Union and what happened and how we got into the situation that we're in. So I do think this one's important, so we're going to read this one. The February Revolution put an end to centuries of Tsarist despotism, but its achievements were on the verge of being undone. In October of 1917, the Bolsheviks, led by Vladimir Lenin, stormed the Winter Palace and seized control of Russia, declaring the world's first revolutionary socialist state, Soviet Russia. A wide front of monarchists, republicans, moderate socialists, and foreign interventionists rose up against it. The Bolshevik Revolution was stillborn. In September of 1918, Lenin was assassinated by Fanny Kaitlin, a disgruntled left SR, and the Bolshevik cause began to disintegrate. This, combined with German supplies provided the white movement throughout the Civil War, meant that by 1920, the revolution was successfully suppressed. In 1922, the white generals dictated a constitution for the new Russian Republic, which, albeit democratic, was riddled with issues and did not satisfy everyone. Hoping that he would prove to be a weak figurehead, the whites pushed forward Alexander Karinsky, the leader of the provisional government before the October coup. As the first president of the Russian Republic, Karinsky would prove to be capable. However, he survived the 1925 Kolchak Putsch and implemented new economic policy to restore the economic growth, and has governed the country for the past 15 years. A lack of serious political opposition and widespread electoral manipulation have certainly helped his longevity as well. By 1936, however, President Karinsky has eroded the last of his allies in the government, and new economic policy is no longer yielding any dividends. Nationalists see him kowtow to Germans, Democrats believe that he is turning into a dictator, and socialists simply want the entire system gone. All of them share one belief, however, that Russia still has the potential to assert its power in the world. So long live Russia, one and indivisible, and this will fire the Russian Constitution 1922 event. I would like to mention here early on that if I mispronounce anything, many of you guys who watched my channel before know I'm absolutely terrible at pronunciation, even in my own language, in English. I've always had a little bit of a speech problem, something that most people don't even recognize anymore because I've improved so much with it. YouTube has been a big help with that. But if I do mispronounce anything, English or in a foreign language for me, which I'm particularly terrible with other languages, but if I do mispronounce anything, then just correct me respectfully in the comments, and then I'll try my best to pronounce it correctly in future videos. I just want to prepare you for that there's going to be some mispronunciations and all these reading of events. Now, we're not going to read this one. Again, you can see how long it is and how much time it would take to read all these. This essentially just kind of outlines the way our government is right now. And so this is good flavor. You can pause the video and read it yourself. We won't read this one, and we also aren't going to read this one because this is just on the new economic policy, which from my understanding is probably pretty similar to the historical NEP. So we won't read through that one either. Again, there's a lot of events to read through. And we're already, almost 15 minutes through the video, and we've made it 5 days through the campaign. The assassination of Karinsky. The sound of gunfire rings across the capital. Alexander Karinsky, the president of the Russian Republic, was shot and killed by an assassin while he was climbing the steps of the Senate House. His killer was shot dead by the military police before he could make his escape. His motives will forever be unknown. Regardless, the fate of Russia has been irreversibly changed. So shot, though, ring across the world. I didn't look at this. We should have looked at it in the beginning. The different things that we have here. So Alexander Karinsky was giving us some negatives. So at least we'll get rid of those negatives now that he's not around. So much for being the eternal president. Yeah, he's not the eternal president. He's already done for. And then we have the divided military staff and the divided naval staff. And you notice that these are really impacting us pretty bad. Basically, there's no reason to do naval or land doctrine until you get rid of those. And then we have the political instability, which I think is already, it's already been changed. It was political unrest, and you can see that it's even worse than it was before. So of course the big negative here is the negative 40% stability. That has now ticked us into the negative, which I didn't even know you could go in the negative with your stability, but we're there. I don't know if that's something the mod changed or if you could do it in vanilla and I've just never seen it happen before. But yeah, we are in the negative, guys. We also lost war support, and our daily political power cost is plus 0.25. And then we have this cannot assign ministers and laws. So I don't think we can do, we can't do anything in this regard, getting our military staff or production companies or anything like that. Design companies, I mean, yeah, can't do anything until we get rid of that modifier. All right, so we have 2 events here. We'll look at this one first. This is observer rights on the Legislation Council. So this is impacting these decisions that we have here. This is the mechanic of the mod that represents what's going on in China. As you guys can see here, China's even more split up than it is in vanilla. And you can see that the voting rights for the Legislation Council are the German Empire, Empire of Japan, Austrian Empire, the United States, and Flanders, Wallonia. We do not have voting rights. We can just view what's going on here. However, it looks like this event is saying that perhaps we'll be able to gain our voting rights back, that they'll be restored. This is going to give us plus 5 political power, so that's a little something there. So then we have the aftermath of the assassination of Karinsky. So this is the important event. This is essentially determining which route you're going to go on your focus tree, what you're going to be allowed to do. It's a very important choice that we have here. So we're going to read this event. Karinsky may have been hated by many, but it is only when he died did it become clear how much Russia needed him. The coalition between cadets and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, cadets, or maybe it's cadets, but we're going to say cadets, and socialist revolutionaries has begun to dissolve immediately. Karinsky's right-hand man, Viktor Chernov, who had usually handled the nitty-gritty of coalition building while the president acted as a public face of the party, has suddenly found his job to be a lot harder. All while the right-wing forces in the Senate and Duma coalesce and gather their forces. Their soon-to-be savior is Grand Duke Dmitry, who has all the material to be a fine president in their eyes. Chernov's only hope is that the left opposition, the Mensheviks and the radical socialists, represented by Iraliki Zaratelli. You know, guys, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce that. My Russian ancestors would be ashamed of me. If you guys didn't know, my dad was Russian. My father was born in the Soviet Union, but came here to America when he was real young. I never knew my father, though, so I did not learn Russian, and I don't really have any much of a connection with that side of my family, but I'm sure that my ancestors would be ashamed of my inability to pronounce Russian names. But they will put rivalries aside and join forces with the hated SRs and cadets. Anti-democratic forces plot in the shadows, too. Pyetr Vrangel, the Black Baron, and Field Marshal Laver Kornilov have independently drawn their plans on seizing the control of the state for this exact occasion. They have no reason to play ball with the parliamentarians in Moscow now that Karinsky is gone. After all, whatever may be the outcome of the January crisis, it is bound to leave a lasting impact upon Russian history. So we have 4 choices here. We can go with the Mensheviks and socialists agree to a coalition of the plural left. So this is very much going, with going back to like a socialism, and I think that's also the way you want to go if you want to go with the Soviet Union. I could be wrong. I think that's the way to go with if you're wanting to recreate the Soviet Union. We have Chernov's coalition fails. The parliamentary right elects Dmitry Romanov. Now this option here is pretty open. It gives you many different directions you can go here. And we're going to take a look at the focus tree and connect these to it here in a second and talk about which route we're going to go. Because again, this is a big decision here. Impacts the entire campaign and what we're going to be able to do and what our government's going to look like. Baron Vrangel establishes martial law and strong arms the Duma in a bloodless push. Kornilov storms Moscow, the streets run red with blood. So you notice that there's some different effects here just on how much stability you're losing, but that's really not what's important when it comes to making this decision. What's important is what you're going to be able to do on the focus tree, because there's 2 branches of the focus tree that are very much kind of decided which route you're going to go, by what you pick here. So of course we have our domestic political branch, where we can either restore the monarchy, bring the czars back to power, say the republic survives, will remain as the Russian Republic, and both of these also have multiple choices, by the way. With the restore the monarchy, you can do the constitutional monarchy or imperial glory, kind of restore, you know, an authoritarian czarist monarchy. Then Republic of Surprise, where we can either empower the Senate, the upper house, or empower the Duma, the lower house. So 2 different routes to go there. And then the third and final one is a firm hand, and I think this one's really interesting because this allows you to kind of go with like a Cromwell military dictatorship, I suppose, where the military seizes power. And it very much reminds me of the Cromwell situation, just based on reading these. Kind of reminds me of Cromwell in England, you know, hundreds of years ago. So that's another really cool route. And you kind of have 2 choices here too, a New Russia or Legacy of the Whites. It seems like these are a little bit less important than these 2 choices that you get here. They have a little bit different modifiers you're going to be able to get. So there's those, and then you also have these ones here that are also heavily based off of who your current leader is. So I did look all through this focus tree, and when it comes to these 4 here, I have a very clear choice I'd like to go, and that's either this one or maybe this one, maybe this one, the farthest right one. And that's because they don't have any negatives associated with them. Now this is the one I prefer to go down, and you can see which leaders we have to have in order to do that route. And the reason why is that these 2 here, the bureaucratic overhaul and the establish the VES, while they have some fantastic bonuses, especially this one here, they have negatives associated with them. I think that's why they get such good bonuses, is because they have negatives. So with this one, you're going to lose manpower. So in total, I think it's a negative 25% recruitable population factor, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it's only 20%. Maybe we got 5 here, 10, 15, 20. So it's a negative 20% recruitable population factors. That is major. Now, I think the idea here is that you're playing as Russia, and you know Russia typically doesn't have any manpower problems. Now we actually do have manpower problems right now. We're pretty low considering that we're Russia. But overall, I assume that we're not going to have, you know, too many issues when it comes to the manpower. So I think that's the, you know, you're giving this up, giving up manpower. But as Russia, I guess it's not too big of a penalty. But just the idea of getting penalties like that are this severe from your focus tree, even if you do have great bonuses, again, I think that this might be the best tree among these 4 when it comes to the bonuses they grant. They have some significant ones, as you guys will see here. But I don't like the getting that penalty there. Same thing with the one over here on the bureaucratic overhaul. This one also has penalties, except for this one is construction speed. And I believe that this one is negative 25%. Let me just check here. Maybe it's 20. 5, 10, 15, 20. All right, so it's 20 again. Negative 20% on your construction speed. So, I mean, it's significant. You can easily, you know, deal with that. But still, it's something to note. And again, it does have really good bonuses, though. Not quite as good as these ones. But yeah, overall, some pretty darn good bonuses. But I prefer to go with these 2 that don't have any negatives. So this one's really just stability. You also notice they all unlock these decisions to develop in these states. Now, I think all of them unlock. Yeah, they all seem to unlock the ability to develop in states. But which states you can develop in are probably based on which route you go. So that's maybe something to consider. Know what states you'd want to build in. Maybe not building in, you know, states that are close to Germany would probably be wise. If you're planning on going to war with Germany, as we likely will. So that's something to consider as well. But overall, I think we're going to try and go down this route. And if not this one, then go down this one. So that does kind of limit who we can have as a leader. Now, we only know what 2 of the leaders will be. I mean, this one says Kornilov, but I want to say like he dies or something, because I didn't see him anywhere as any of the possible leaders for doing any of these. So I kind of feel like he's not going to become our leader. So the only 2 that we can actually see here, well, Chernov is going to be in this one, I believe. Yeah, I think he would be in this one here. So you might end up with Chernov. I think you get a few different options, though, on who you want to rule, who you want to have rule. But we know that these 2 are going to give us Vrangel or Romanov, and both of them can get this one here. Now, you notice that Chernov cannot go for this one, so that's something to consider. And so it makes me automatically want to pick one of these 2, so I know I can go down that route. And then also when I'm looking at which route to go down here, I did do a YouTube search. I did a little search to see what other YouTubers have done while playing Russia in Kaiserreich. And I noticed that there are several campaigns that return to Tsar. That seems to be a popular route to go. There's a lot of other campaigns that go with the Soviet Union route that go towards the left. Now, I don't know which route that would be on here, because neither one of these seem to, I suppose it would be like the Republic Survives would be the one that goes this route. Yeah, you have Chernov here. But Dmitry Romanov can go down this route too, which is interesting. But yeah, I think that the Soviet Union route must be this one. It must be the Republic. And then, of course, you can remain a democracy as well if you went with this focus tree. So that's one that's very popular as well. I've seen a couple of people do democratic ones, but it seems like the Soviet Union route, which again I think is this one. I could be wrong. Is one of these two here. I'm not. Again, I don't know if you're going to be limited at all. It doesn't really seem like these are based on ideology at all. They're mainly based off of the leaders. But I haven't seen anybody do this route, a firm hand, the government route. I haven't seen anybody go down it. So I think it'd be really interesting to do it. It's got some fantastic bonuses. Again, I kind of like the idea of this kind of like Cromwell dictatorship situation. And again, just some really great bonuses here, especially to your military, as you would expect. And I like that this one here gives us attack bonuses against Germany and Japan. So if we were to fight those two, which I suspect we might fight Germany, then we would be able to get a nice attack bonus against them. So I think we're going to go down this route, just again because I haven't seen anybody on YouTube do it. It doesn't mean they haven't. Maybe I missed their series. But this could also be something part of the focus tree that might be new, that those older YouTube series haven't got the chance to play with. I don't know, but I think it'd be fun to do it this way. So that's what we're going to do. This is what it says here, if you wanted to read and see why we're going that route. And so if we're going to go that route, then there's a very clear choice that we have to pick here on this event, which is Baron Vrangel establishes martial law and strong arms the Duma. So that's one that we're going to go with, and that will change up our leader. He's got much better bonuses here, a division recovery rate of plus 5% and stability of plus 5% compared to our previous leader. And we'll go ahead and read his address to the nation. Field Marshal Pyetr Vrangel and his regiment entered Moscow with almost machine-like precision. Order across the city was swiftly restored, strikes and demonstrations were broken up, but no needless violence was reported. The Black Baron himself ordered his units to maintain peace and no more. Surrounded by the army, the Duma and the Senate had no choice but to give in to Vrangel's orders, even if it meant that a quarter of the representatives resigned in disgust. Elected acting president, he immediately activated Article 48 of the Constitution to grant himself emergency powers and suspend civil liberties in the name of public order. A few hours later, he took to the radio waves, informing the startled Russian people of exactly what had just happened, and explained that though this was a difficult decision for him, a military man first and foremost, he could not stand by and watch his beloved nation decay. A coalition of right-wing representatives and senators have chosen to openly endorse Vrangel's government and form the base of his support. So the Black Baron shall bring order to Holy Russia. We're going to gain a little bit of stability. Not much, though. We're still sitting at negative 15%. And, ooh, that's not good. So these guys, these are our one puppet here that we had, our one subject, I should say. And they were loosely under our control anyways, but they have declared independence. So that's unfortunate. And it's going to increase our stability. So now we're probably going to need to defend this border too. If anybody was going to attack us, you would think it'd be our former puppet here. So, and what we'll do is we'll just kind of see which one of these lines is like the most well defended, and kind of pull troops off of it based on that. Does seem like this one's pretty well defended, so we're going to bring some over here. This one's got a lot less troops. Again, we're not going to have enough troops to defend the entire borders. Not yet, anyway. And did I get that tank? I'm going to assign that tank unit because we're not building those tanks. Those are the cruddy light tanks. Where the hell did that guy go? I lost him. Oh, there he is. We did assign him. Okay, so that'll be good. That'll get, a couple provinces covered here, but not many. But I do want to read those events, if you're curious why I'm reading so many of the events, because they are important, knowing what's going on to the decisions that we need to make. I do need to know what's happening here, and I found from past series that more people seem to prefer having me read it than to just leave it on screen for a little bit, let you guys read it real quick, and then cut, where you can kind of pause it and read it yourself. So I try and balance it a little bit and don't read them all, but yeah, I think some people prefer when I read them. Having strong-armed the Duma to follow his orders, Pyetr Vrangel has been elected acting president and is nominally in control of the country. He and his junta are faced with a dilemma, however. To ensure a smooth transition of power, he needs to form a collaborationist civilian government which will help him manage the day-to-day affairs of the state. Though the list of possible stooges is long, only a few of them bring the necessary skills and bases of support to prove of use, and this choice will determine where Vrangel's rulership shall lead. Alright, so we can keep Karinsky's prime minister, which seems to be the best one for political power. He grants a 0.13 per day, but does have that negative 7% stability there, offsetted by the 4%, so basically 3% change. The Patriarch Kirill will help us find popular support, and that's exactly what he does. He's going to increase our stability by a total of 16%, so basically get us out of the negative. And the cost will be more consumer good factories. Then we have Vladimir here, and he will help with the union of the Russian people. He also increases stability and increases war support. Well, I guess he's not going to increase stability because that's a net gain of 0. So basically he's going to give us some war support, and the daily political power gain is going to be a little bit less. So probably the worst choice there. Merge the offices of president and prime minister into one. So basically we will be both the head of state and the head of government as Vrangel, which I think is what we're going to do. Obviously it's going to cost the most stability, as you'd expect that it would, when you're completely eliminating offices and concentrating power in one person. Yeah, I'd expect that to reduce stability. However, you get some very nice bonuses here, guys. The infantry equipment production cost is going to be reduced. That's not that big of an impact, but it helps. But the ones I'm seeing here with the daily political power gain, that's again a little bit. It's not much. It's not as much as you get with this prime minister. But yeah, it's a little bit. And then you get the division speed, which is the main reason why I want to get that. You guys know I love fast divisions. So I want to do that for that reason alone. And then we have the consumer good factories, which will be increased, so we'll have less civilian factories to build with, unfortunately. But overall, I think these are pretty good bonuses, and that's what we're going with. And I think that's what a military man would do. The military is very much, you have somebody on top, somebody in charge. So I do expect, and I know you have a lot of different offices and officers and different ranks in the military. I was in the army for several years. But you always have like one guy at the top. Now, of course, in the American government, the top of our military is always going to be a civilian. The president of the United States is in charge of the military, but you got to have that one guy in charge. That's the way the military operates best. So it makes sense to have one guy controlling the entire government. So we have the payments that we have to make for the reparations for the war to Berlin, and this is going to be severe, as you'd expect. Again, I've had a couple people tell me that Russia is a very difficult start in the mod. Never played as it myself, but you're already seeing how we are started in a pretty rough position overall. This is going to drop us down to almost negative 50% stability. And then plus we get this modifier here, which is pretty damning. I mean, yeah, it's going to take away our civilian factories. We're going to have trouble getting out of the stability issues while we have this. And it does look like our production is going to get hit pretty hard as well. So overall, definitely getting impacted pretty hard by that. We lost a few of our civilian factories that we had for building, and I'm sure our production is not great. Yeah, you can see here that our production's pretty cruddy, and of course that's because our stability is decreasing factory output by negative 39.4%. Afghanistan declared war on the Dominion of India, so we'll have to see what happens here as far as if they're in factions. The Dominion of India is in the Entente. For those of you unfamiliar with the mod, I didn't even explain this for those people that don't have any idea what the hell's happening here. Essentially, Germany has won. They won World War I, and so that's what the premise of the mod is what would happen if Germany had won. And after Germany won, things did not go well for the Allies and the leftists, socialists, and totalists, syndicalists, different types of leftists, radicalist socialists, took over both Britain and France. And then the governments that were there had to leave and basically exile themselves. Britain went to Canada, so they're now in the Entente, and Edward VIII is now ruling them. And then the French are here in Africa, the French Republic, or in the lands there. Germany also has many lands in Africa, considering that they won World War I. And then they also, for the most part, seem to control many of the colonies here in Asia. They got the Dutch East Indies, or some of the Dutch East Indies, excuse me. They have the British colonies that were here. So they don't have the Dutch East Indies. Take that back. The Dutch East Indies are in no faction, but they are under the control of the Netherlands. And so yeah, they got the colonies here with the British, and then they got the French colonies in Indochina here. Philippines, I don't know if they're still under the U.S. Yeah, they're still under the U.S. And then of course we have the Australasian Confederation. Australia and New Zealand are in one country now. So I realized I didn't explain any of that. And you guys can read those events, pause them. I probably should have left them up a little longer so it'd be easier to pause and read them if you wish. We're not going to read all these events though, but we'll kind of cover the headlines. Austrian Empire withdrawals from Italy. I think that's a choice that they make. I don't think they have to do that. I think they can stay involved in Italy. As you can see, Italy is divided. We have the two Sicilies, which are led by social conservatives. We have the Socialist Republic of Italy, which is led by the Union of Syndicalists. And then we have the last one, the Italian Republic, led by the Social Liberals. So liberals up here in the north, conservatives down here in the south. So it is split. So very different from history. Poland declares the Republic. It's the old order falling. We have so many events tied to just our own country that I'm not going to read all the ones tied to other countries, with the exception of probably the most important ones that I notice. The reorganization of the internal police. As a symbol of the Tsarist repression, the Guard Department was abolished by the Provisional Government on March of 1917 and never restored. In effect, however, secret police practices in the Russian Republic never vanished and simply changed form. The White forces in the Russian Civil War operated their own measure against Bolshevik subversion, and several departments were formed under the Ministry of Internal Affairs to fulfill the same purpose, such as the Third Directorate of Ministry of Internal Affairs. That's a mouthful for a department. Alexander Karinsky's government used these institutions with little hesitation to prevent a second revolution. The most famous of the actions was the assassination of Tambov revolutionary Alexandria Antonov. By mid-1935, the president was planning to reorganize the internal police and establish the Department for Protecting Order, which would bear the same name as the Tsarist Okhrana, something like that. Though he may have passed people in our government a call to finish his reforms and thus grant us a powerful tool at defending the current order. And so that will unlock our first focus that we can get here, which is going to give us an intelligence agency, because you can't just do that in the mod. You can't just create your own intelligence agency. You have to, I guess, either start as one or get one through a focus. That will not allow us to go any further on this branch. Just lets us get that one focus. The bad thing about doing so would of course result in us earning a lot less political power, which, while we can't really change any of these, the main thing we could do if we let our political power increase up to 100 is we could do some options that might allow us to, or I guess we could do this option here that will allow us to increase the stability, which is obviously a major issue right now. So that's one of the penalties of getting the focus, but I think we are going to go ahead and do this, guys. That allow us to not only get an agency, but we'll have our first operative. You notice some other bonuses here. Daily political power cost is reduced, and the Intel network strength game factor is up. So I would like to get that done, so that we'll have an operative that we can play around with. And while we manage the army, we didn't really do anything with our Navy or Air Force, so we might want to go ahead and do that real quick. What we'll do is we'll just take a look and see where all of our current planes are, and probably get rid of some of these. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to go and just consolidate these. They don't have any experience, so it doesn't really matter how we do this. Let's just go. We'll just go up to. Can I shift click it? Yeah. We'll go up to 50 and get rid of that other air wing. With these guys, we'll just put them up to 100 and then get rid of those other air wings that we have wherever the hell they're at. So let's go ahead and change up all these here. Get rid of them. No, not that one. This one here. All right, and just go ahead and delete these. and just kind of consolidate them into the 2 air wings, and then we'll let them train. These are old planes, but at the very least we can start kind of getting some air experience for them. So we'll do that with the planes. Now as for our Navy, I don't know how much ships we even have, so let's take a look real quick. I'm sure we have some in the Pacific. Yeah, we have 10 submarines over here. Okay, so what I think we're going to do, well, these look a lot different, don't they? Okay, it's an Escort Cruiser. All right, so they don't have those in vanilla. Well, I mean, I guess you could design them, of course, but you don't really have a hole for them. So yeah, we have the Escort Cruiser here, leading a bunch of destroyers. Just looks very different overall from vanilla. And then here we have 8 battleships, 5 light cruisers, 12 destroyers, 9 more submarines. And what we're going to do is we're going to move them all to the same naval base. And in fact, we'll probably even put them into, this is what we'll do. All right, and then put all these guys into here. I think that's the best way to go about doing this. Have them all move on over to here, and then we're gonna have them train. We're just gonna do the shift click train for right now. Train until they're experienced. This is gonna deplete our fuel probably fairly rapidly here in a matter of days, actually. We'll see if we need to trade for it. I assume we will have to trade for at least a little bit. I never even did take a look and see how we were doing on resources. I guess it's because we didn't have notifications that we're doing fine. But let's go and trade for a little bit of oil. Who do we want to trade with, though? I guess that's the real question. I don't really know who's going to be an ally and who's going to be an enemy just yet. But really, there's nobody to trade with but the United States. They're the only ones that really have a good amount of fuel to trade. So we're going to trade for 3 factories worth for right now. And we'll see how much of an impact that makes on us. Alright, should be okay. We'll see, guys. Black Monday hits Russia. So this is happening much later than it did historically. And that's going to give us the economic depression national spirit, which is, of course, pretty negative overall, as you'd expect that it would be. Don't expect us to be building very much equipment with all these penalties we're getting to factory output. We're going to lose more stability. So we weren't low enough. We had to get to negative 50%. This will unlock the focuses, reintroduce the Zemstov. So let's take a look at that. We're getting one right now, so we can't get it yet. That's actually the route that I would like to go. That's again, these are the choices you have to do here. And I think that's based on the current leader that we have. It looks like Pyetr Vrangel, that's probably the only route he can go. Yeah, so that will allow us to start going down this route, which will be super helpful. But again, we do have to finish the current one. I almost want to cancel it, but you know we're far enough in. We'd lose 8 days worth of progress if we canceled it. It's fine. We'll just go for it, guys. French loyalists restore monarchy. After a brief French civil war, the old government of France and its supporters fled to North Africa to escape syndicalist wrath. There, the nation eventually devolved into a military junta under the Lion of Verdun, Philippe Pétain. However, a big question arose in this defeated nation. What should its future be? Retaking France is the priority, yes, but what should be the government? It appears the French have answered that question themselves, though, as the national French state has accepted an agreement to restore the monarchy in France. So they are going to be under Napoleon IV. All right. So I don't know how that will impact things, but it'll be interesting to see. Ivan Pavlov dies. Okay, widely known Russian psychologist, and that's going to, in fact, increase our stability. Okay, by 1%. It's had a little bit of impact there. We can take a look and see if we can build any units. We could build one more unit. We'll just wait then, if that's all we can get. I'm sure we're not doing great on equipment anyway. Yeah, infantry equipment is incredibly short. In fact, it's so short that we're probably going to want to reprioritize how we have our factories assigned. Probably pull back on the support equipment since we're almost got that solved, because we don't really need a lot of support equipment for our divisions just yet, because they don't have any support companies. So let's put it into the infantry equipment so we can get that fixed. Restoration of democracy in Australasia. Okay, were they not a democracy before? So they have been put under the authoritarian rule of Governor General William Birdwood since the British invocation of the emergency protocols in 1924. Okay, interesting. So they are a democracy again, under social conservatives. And a peace deal has been signed between the Dominion of Canada in Afghanistan. So the war is already over. I don't know if that had, what impact that had. But yeah, it was just a little short conflict. The Pope has died. Pius the 11th, I think that was. Really short on the fuel, guys. Now, a big part of this is, of course, because we have all of our ships out there. Kind of like stretching a little bit because I feel like this will get better once some of these ships are done training up, some of these larger ones. Another thing we might want to go ahead and do, since we have all of our ships in one fleet here, one task force, is go ahead and turn on the automatic split off so that they can repair one ship at a time rather than the whole fleet have to go back to repair. But yeah, once we get all these ships back in, that should help us out a lot with the fuel situation. But I don't think we're going to trade for any more. If they can't train because of lack of fuel, then that's fine. Electronical mechanical engineering has been completed, so let's go for the next one. Looks like those techs have the old modifiers before Paradox rebalanced them, so I wonder if that's going to have any impact, because even with Paradox's rebalance, it is often quite difficult to get through all your tech tree. Pius the 13th, or excuse me, Pius the 12th was elected as the new pope. Workers' demonstrations, so this is going to be another reduction in stability. So it's probably going to be fairly difficult for us to get the stability up to a respectable level. So we're not going to train our troops just yet. Let's get the infantry equipment situation dealt with before we lose more to the attrition that you take while training. You know, the equipment that gets damaged. We'll fix our issues first, and then we'll train up. It's going to be a little while before I think our army is at all ready for any kind of conflict. We did get our agency created. It's an interesting way to do it, you know, where you have to have a focus first, and then they create the agency for you. I assume you can still change it, though. But let's go with the next one. I know that political power is a resource that we very much need, but we can also get stability from these. So let's start down the branch that I wanted to go down. So this is going to give us plus 5% stability and plus 0.10 political power gain. So yeah, I think it's worth it going this route. And then next is going to give us a funding frenzy, or you can invest in several states. I'm not entirely sure what those do, those decisions. We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, I assume that, you know, our ships and planes aren't able to fully train now because of the lack of fuel. Although ships seem to train just fine even when they're short on fuel. I know that it does impact them, but they seem to be able to get the training done all right. We might not even need to trade for the fuel, but we will. We'll keep trading for it. We got the basic machine tools, and also we got that research done as well, so we'll have to get something selected there. So for the concentrated or dispersed industry, I think we're going to go with the concentrated because I do feel like this is probably the best route for us in the long run, getting that extra 25% factory output through this line. And I know that in the early game, I think that the dispersed would be a bit more useful for us because we'll probably have to rotate factories around a little bit in the early game. So having the higher retention and base would be really nice to have. But you know what, we're going to go with the concentrated for this playthrough. And I don't really care about the bomb, you know, the fact that it reduces the bomb damage. That's just not as useful. I don't expect the Germans will bomb us very heavily. So we are done here. Now we could go for an early game shot for the rubber processing, because you know we're gonna have rubber issues. I think that's particularly true if you decide to go to war with Germany, because I think they control most of the game's rubber here, at least in the early part of it. Now when it comes to getting like the planes and the tanks and all that good stuff, I don't know if the mod uses the vanilla form of design companies where, you know, whatever design company you have, when you research the equipment, that's the one whose bonuses are applied to it. Or if it's, say, like Road to 56, where Road to 56 just gives you flat bonuses and it's applied no matter when you got that design company. Not sure how it does it in Kaiserreich, but typically you want to try and get those design companies before you research the next tech. But I don't know when that's going to be, since we can't assign any of these. So yeah, I'm probably not even gonna wait for those. And we're just gonna get whatever we feel like we need at that moment, like the planes and the tanks. Let's go with the light tanks first. That's what we'll start with, because we actually have divisions that need light tanks, and we're not building them. right now because I don't want to build those really old ones. Agitation in the countryside. With the situation in the countryside growing increasingly unstable, the peasants are becoming easy to influence. With various agitators taking advantage of the unrest, one such situation has recently taken place. A charismatic activist visited a number of villages, calling for open revolt against our regime. How should we react to this potential threat? So we can say, let him agitate. We have more important business, and we'll lose more stability, or eliminate the agitator, and we won't lose as much stability, and that's what we're going to do. I'm sure that there's going to be a consequence to that, obviously. They wouldn't give you a clear option that's far superior, you would think anyways. They didn't have any additional cost, so I'm sure that there's something that's going to happen because of that, but I feel like it fits with our military regime that we would kind of put down any agitators. So we can select our first operative, and we've got this guy here. He's got no bonuses. This guy is a seducer, and then we have the tough linguist, and then also, okay, they also have additional nationalities. We're going to go with the seducer. People just cannot deny his hair part. It's just too damn sexy. So we're going to go with him, and I guess we can go to get him assigned to, I mean, do we have any resistance issues? I guess that's what we should really look here. See if we have any resistance problems. I assume not. Yeah, and then I never did look at this. As far as occupied territories, it's only this region here, and we should probably change this up. Move to the cav, because that, as you see, is far more efficient. And we don't have any resistance issues that I'm seeing. So, with that in mind, I guess we can either send him off to start building intel somewhere, which there'd be no point on doing that. Yeah, I guess there's really no point on doing anything with it. Just one intelligence aid. There's just nothing we can do. So we'll just keep him here. We'll keep him in Moscow and deal with any foreigners trying to cause us issues. I got that, and those planes almost experienced. Their experience is pretty close to being done. And let's take a look at the ships out here as well. See how close they are to getting the big ships done, since that's consuming a lot of fuel. And we, you know, I'm even gonna stop trading for that fuel. We really want to get those civilian factories built. Oh, and I never did stop these. Damn it! I meant to stop building here because they are building in 40% areas, so not the most efficient. That was my bad, guys. It's one built there, and then we have the military factory built here. So we'll build these new ones that we're doing. We'll get this set up. We'll build these in more efficient areas with the 50% bonuses. Maybe we should build behind Moscow, just in case the Germans conquer all this or something like that. Diplomatic development. Well, this is an interesting little thing they created. Due to British provocation, Ireland has joined the Reichspakt, hoping the Kaiser can protect them from Syndicalist machinations. Alright, so they are now part of Germany's faction. Remember, Germany has all these buffer states all along with us. First Women's Division of Death. Oh, okay. Maria Bochkareva, colonel of the Russian army and hero of the Weltkrieg and Russian Civil War, has recently requested government to allow formation of the First Women Divisions by combining existing women's battalions of death, which should later serve as a basis for formation of a women's corps. Accepting this proposal will surely boost the strength of our army and give significant propaganda value. But conservative elements in our armed forces, unwilling to change the status quo, have to be taken into consideration as well. So we can say this is unacceptable, gain political power, or we can say allow formation of the First Women's Divisions of Death. And they'll be created, and we'll lose political power. I say let's do it. Why not? And we'll see. Okay, so what is this? It gave us a new template here, perhaps? Is it this one here? Yeah, I think that this is what we got here. Did they give us new divisions? Yeah, they gave us a couple new divisions. So this is them here, and look at their experience. Wow, that's nice. All right, so we got some very experienced divisions here. Because of that, let's go and throw them onto our borders. All right, well, so that'll be helpful, having them in charge, I suppose. Having some nice experienced divisions here. Be pretty helpful against the Germans eventually, though they probably won't have quite that experience by the time we go to war, since I'm sure we'll change up their division designs because they're not, they don't start out that great. Failed coup in Beijing. Oh, okay. So I'll let you guys read that if you want. But we do have this war here still ongoing. There's a small conflict along the coast of China, and it looks like it just finished up. Okay. We did finish up our construction tech. Let's go and get the excavation. gives more resources to utilize and to trade. Russo-German Study Society. So this will likely be the last event that we read here, because it is just about the end of the episode. So the growth of international syndicalism and the threat it poses to Russia has gotten a handful of our intellectuals to look towards Germany as a potential ally. The so-called Russo-German Study Society has been established in Moscow and unites a circle of historians, writers, politicians who all share staunch right-wing ideals. In its first proclamation, the society has stated that Russia should finally come to terms with the losses of Brest-Litovsk. I've never been able to pronounce that, but the treaty that we had with the Russians. I think it's Litovsk, something like that. And strike an agreement with Germany to reclaim the Caucasus and Central Asia in exchange for forming an anti-syndicalist axis. This Berlin-Moscow axis would be able to overcome syndicalism through sheer combined might and manpower. The society's call to abandon Russian irredentism in the West has eroded the influence it could have over our policy, however. So essentially right now, just keep an eye. They could be traitors. We get some political power. Alright, so I guess we're going to go ahead and end it here. I wanted to make it a little bit further in the first episode than we have. Oh, we can get another operative? What did our operative... Oh, okay, yeah, we get the base operative, of course. So that's kind of interesting. I think we'll end up getting more operatives overall than you typically get. So we have two choices, a master interrogator, which would increase the counterintelligence, or another seducer who is also well-groomed. Okay, I wonder if having the diplomatic pressure would be useful at all. I don't think it would be because, in Kaiserreich you don't do the factions the normal way. So I don't know if that is accounted for with the way the mod handles factions and countries joining. Probably not, though. So you could still use the controlled trade mission if you really needed to get resources from a country, but overall, I don't think that would be as useful. But he is a seducer, because look at that look. The way he's giving you right now, that little twinkle in his eyes. Yeah. Or we can go with the master interrogator with his pipe. Well, I think we'll go ahead and go with we'll go with this guy. He's got more bonuses. So we'll have to get our operatives assigned, because we now have 2. So there are a few different missions we could do with that. But this is unfortunately the end of the episode for today. We still got our planes training here. We also have our ships currently training, and hopefully should have those done soon. As far as our equipment situation goes, still trying to kind of fix the lack of infantry equipment before we start training a bit more to get more army experience. I didn't make as far as I wanted, of course, because we do have those events where reading them does take quite a bit of time. So usually I try and shoot for at least a year in the first episode, but because it's Kaiserreich, it's going to be a little bit slower than a traditional vanilla campaign. But so far things are interesting. I'm looking forward to being able to really dig into our focus tree, which we don't really have access to most of the focuses just yet. But I'm looking forward to digging into that, seeing what bonuses we'll get out of it. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens to the world with all the events. This mod is just packed full of events that fire. So interested to see exactly what's going to happen, how the different factions are going to end up aligning, and who's going to join which side. So we'll continue the playthrough on Saturday, because remember, and I meant to mention this in the beginning of the episode, and I completely forgot, but I did mention this in the HOI IV series we just finished as Mexico, that this is going to be a little bit different campaign than normal, because I'm currently playing CK3. I have access to it. However, the embargo, and that's all I can say about it. I should say that I can't tell you my opinion of it or how I'm liking it or anything like that. It is embargoed right now. I can just tell you that I have it. And because the embargo is not lifting until around launch, we won't be able to start that series for some time. And essentially that's really what this series was. Is I didn't know that the embargo was going to be like that for CK3, so I thought we would start, now. But because we can't start that campaign yet, we're doing this in between. So it is going to be a little bit shorter series. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to end it as soon as we start the CK3 series. Maybe we'll continue this. If I feel like we're not done with it, we'll continue it a bit more. But it is going to be a little bit shorter series. Typically, my series are about 20-something videos. I do expect this one to be a little bit shorter than that. But that's the goal anyway. We'll see exactly what ends up happening. But in addition to being a shorter series, I want time to play CK3. I want to get a lot of trying to get as many hours as I can into it, so I have the most experience when we start that series. Since it's a brand new game, and it is obviously it's not the same as CK2, so I would like to get as much experience with it as I can. And because of my lack of free time, I do need to cut back on what I'm recording here. So just going to cut back a little bit. Typically we have 6 videos per week, every day but Monday, and instead we're going to have 4 videos a week. So it's going to be Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's when we're going to have videos for the series. So this is a Thursday video, so we will not have a video for Friday, but we will have one on Saturday and Sunday. So I do hope you guys enjoyed this first episode. It's been a long time since we played some Kaiserreich. Definitely a lot of changes. It's almost unrecognizable for me, just because there's been so many changes over the last 2 years or so, as you'd expect with 2 expansions coming out since then, Man the Guns and Law Resistance. But I do hope you guys enjoyed the first episode. If you did, make sure you leave a like on the video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our future content. If you're looking for any links, check down the description of any of our videos. You'll find links to our PayPal, Patreon, and our Teespring store if you'd like to help support the channel. You also find a link to our Discord if you'd like to join our community. And then there's links to all of our social media, Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff. If you'd like to follow us on there. If you're looking for anything to watch while you wait for the next episode or in between episodes, since we won't have videos every day, check out the front page of our channel. Got 3,000 something videos, so you should be able to find something to watch. We have a lot of different strategy series, many Paradox ones. We just did an E4 one as Milan not that long ago, and played a little bit of Stellaris. Had a couple of CK2 series as well. Maybe go check those out in preparation for CK3. Those are role play series, and had an absolute blast as them. Played once in Denmark and once in France, and had a lot of fun with those two. Maybe check those out if you're excited for that CK3 series. And we also have a lot of other kind of games if you're not just into strategy games. We play quite a few different genres, and many of them I'll have Jinx, my wife and co-host here on the channel, she'll join me on those, and those are a lot of fun. A little bit different style, a little bit more lighthearted, a little bit more jokes and stuff, but still we have a good amount of fun. It's still the same kind of chill, laid back type of commentary where we don't really yell at the screen and get really loud. Some people don't like that, but that's the way we do it. We very chill people overall, I'd say. So maybe go check out some of that content. And if you're really just into Hearts of Iron 4, I've done like 30-something HOI4 series, and it does have its own section on that front page if you're just looking for some from Hearts of Iron 4 content. So yeah, that's going to be it for this video. I will see you on Saturday's episode, and thanks for watching.